You know, there are a lot of great venues for weddings in Central PA, like here at the Lancaster Marriott and Convention Center. But sometimes couples just want to stay in their own backyards. Jessie and Doug's wedding brought together his love for the outdoors with her desire for elegance. In the end, they created a wedding that was uniquely theirs.
We met the first time when we went to school together, and Jessie was a year older than me and always with a boyfriend. I always thought she was very, very cool. She went to college, and then I saw her out and about with a bunch of friends one night, and I guess I asked her if I can hang out with her.
I believe the specific phrase was, "When are you gonna let me take you out to dinner?" And I said, "Whenever you ask." So we had a little break apart, and then we got back together. Things were going really well.
So I bought my ring. We went to Park City one night for dinner. We were walking out through the parking lot. We saw this little old couple holding hands. And I said, "Oh, that is cute, old couple holding hands still." It just felt so romantic in the parking lot. So then I just got down on a knee, and then I asked her to marry me. And then she said yes.
Doug and Jessie, welcome to Dream Weddings. Thank you for joining us today. What possessed you to do it in the parking lot? At the mall?
I don't think I'm very romantic, and I don't really come up with great ideas. And so being spontaneous was in my favor. Well, the night was winding down, and I still hadn't done it yet, so I had to do it.
So after you proposed, how long did it take you to plan this whole wedding?
It was about like 8 or 9 months was the process. And it was always Doug's dream to have a summer wedding at his parents' property.
Why was it important for you to get married at your parents' house?
Well, my sister got married here, my oldest sister got married here, and I couldn't imagine being inside for my wedding. I just like to be outside. I love the summertime. It's a beautiful place here, so it was just what I really wanted.
Now, you being in the wedding business because your mother does flowers. I mean, obviously you've been planning this since you were little because you were in the wedding business for so long. I have to accommodate my future husband and have it outside. How did you feel about that?
It was really fun, actually, because we got to just be more out in nature. We didn't have to deal with looking at all different venues and trying to figure out that type of thing. It was really nice that it was all here, everything just had to be brought here.
When we come back, we'll see how Jessie and Doug both got what they wanted for their dream wedding. What were you dreaming of to have an outside wedding?
For me, the thing I wanted the most was just to be able to wear sandals.
Comfortable and relaxed
Yeah.
and a little more casual. But yet we still wanted to bring elegance to the outdoors.
Let's talk about flowers. Your mom being in the business, was it easier for you or was it harder?
It was a little bit harder because I like so many things. And in that season, some of the flowers that I really liked weren't in season, but she was able to grow some in her own garden, freeze them and like harden them off that they were still good for my day.
Kelly, you've been in the industry for quite some time already. You do flowers. How is this different for Jessica?
Doing a wedding for your daughter is pure joy. I get to save all my best ideas for her. It's great because she actually loves the same flowers that I love.
Jessica was telling me earlier about the flowers. The flowers that you froze?
The peonies were something that were in bloom in early May, and her wedding wasn't until June. So I waited until they got just ready to pop open, and I wrapped them very tight, put them in the bottom of my coolers, and said a prayer over them, and brought them out a week before the wedding, and they came to life perfectly. So I was able to kind of hibernate them for almost 6 weeks.
Was it the first time you did something like that?
Yes.
So you were really afraid
And
that...
I've done it since. It works.
So you're not just putting flowers in the vase, you were actually gardening flowers too. Did you do some gardening at Doug's parents' house?
We did. We planted over 1,000 white pansies several weeks before so that they would be in full bloom for the aisle. Instead of dropping petals down the aisle, they were fresh growing in the ground.
Wow, that's really pretty.
Okay.
Tell me about the tulips. I've never seen anything like that. Obviously, that's one of her favorite
Over the
flowers.
favorite table?
Yes.
Well, I wanted to save something as a surprise for her, so she didn't know anything about it. So that's when I came up with the idea of suspending flowers over the favorite table.
I walked in, I was like, what is this? How did they do that?
Doug, so your dream was to get married at your parents' property. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad. Wow. Beautiful property. Beautiful, beautiful home.
Thank you.
How long did it take for you to get this whole thing ready for them?
The last month is when we crammed for everything, but it's just a natural setting.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually our 4th wedding here.
4th wedding.
Yeah, our daughter got married here in 2000, 6 weeks after we moved here. So that was the first wedding.
Wait a minute, 6 weeks?
6 weeks after we moved here. So we were planning a wedding and building a house at the same time.
So you're like a coordinator at your home.
Yeah.
In a way.
But you kind of have to have the right personality to have a wedding, number 1, outside, but number 2, at your house as well. And you have to be flexible. You can't be a person that just plans every little thing. You kind of have to go with the flow.
It's a lot of work for both of you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a family effort.
Yeah.
Doug and I were out there the very last evening before the wedding, mulching everything with other people helping us, but him and I were working side by side, and we'd think, let's mulch this tree yet, or let's do this tree yet. And that was fun.
Your ceremony was outside, so you brought the church and your gardens.
We had found benches from a church camp meeting that they let us use. Place that I used to go growing up with my family. So it was outdoor bench seating, and then we created an aisle by planting an aisle of flowers.
So you were going every day probably praying for rain at that moment. And you pray so much that you got on your wedding day. Yeah. Oh, that's okay, don't worry.
It rained like, I think they said like an inch or 2 in like 20 minutes. And this was maybe like an hour before the wedding or something. So we had water everywhere. So while all my friends were getting ready, I was outside digging like trenches trying to get water away from everything.
So when you heard about the rain coming and was getting a little bit of cloudy and everything, what did you feel at that moment?
I was upstairs getting ready, looking out the window, and he was swimming in the pool with his friends, enjoying the rain, and I'm sitting there getting my hair and makeup done, just tearing up. And then it just stopped and everything worked out just fine.
I just always assumed it wasn't gonna rain. I'm pretty unassuming that way. But for Jessie, it was probably a lot more stressful.
Did you have plan B?
No.
No.
We didn't have a ceremony plan B, no. Because the ceremony site was just all open, exposed. We had the tent if we had to, but it would have been really difficult to rearrange the setup in there. But it is good to have a backup plan.
When it happened, I said, I just can't believe it. It looked like maybe a 5 or 10 minute shower, but it just poured. I think we were all just a little overwhelmed. And, what do we do now? Because it just kept raining and just kept raining. We had a big load of wood chips, and family was around here, so we just scrambled, hauling wood chips and made a path from the ceremony area to the tent.
So when you walked down the aisle, you were wearing sandals?
I was wearing sandals and holding up my dress a little bit. But then after that, I was carefree and I didn't even wear shoes the rest of the day.
It really didn't ruin the day, the ceremony. It just made for a little mess that we hadn't planned on. And at 4 o'clock at ceremony time, the sun came out like nothing ever happened. And it just actually made everything else look so lush and green. The grass looked so green and the trees were glistening with a little bit of moisture on them yet. And it was absolutely beautiful.
It really was a beautiful wedding. When we come back, all the special touches that made Jessie and Doug's wedding uniquely theirs. Jessica, what did it mean to you having your mother being a big part of this wedding?
Well, I definitely couldn't have done any of it without her and her ideas and her support. She was very understanding. Sometimes talking weddings 7 days a week for 9 months is too much. So she was very understanding. We had Wedding Tuesday. Every Tuesday, that was our day to talk wedding stuff, do details, do the little, do-it-yourself projects. So that was really nice.
Jessie used Janessa Kirkham from Plan Perfection to help plan and coordinate the wedding.
When I first met with Jessie, she really focused in on that she works full-time and she doesn't have time to do all the legwork that's involved with scouting out vendors. Being that it was a tented event, a lot more things come into play. You have to bring in everything. China, flatware, glassware, linens, dance floor, everything, lighting for parking. There's so much more that needs to come into play. So dealing with all those vendors was something that we did for her.
Well, this is a huge property. There's no way I, as a florist or as a mother, could be everywhere at one time, taking care of all kinds of details. And she was able, with her assistants, to coordinate every area. We supplied golf carts so that they could get around fast. And then when the rain came, we knew there'd be wet benches, there would be things to take care of in the tent, all kinds of things that, I was determined to stay up in the dressing room with my daughter while she was getting dressed, knowing that it's taken care of.
I'm glad you were there as a guest and not as a planner.
Yeah. I just can't imagine being able to, or having to be the mother and the coordinator. You miss too much. It's a blur as it is. The day goes way too fast.
I can't tell you how many mothers have come to book me for their second daughter's wedding because they realized the first daughter, they weren't a guest. They were tending to this mishap, this detail. They didn't get to relax and be a guest of honor, which they should. Plan Perfection actually specializes in the day of coordination, where the bride plans everything herself, has the time to dedicate to that, but then realizes she wants to be a guest at her own wedding. So then they come to us and to help ensure that the day runs smoothly, that everything she worked and planned so hard for really does happen. There's so many details that come up on the day of a wedding, and a bride shouldn't have to worry about them.
So there's different levels of coordinating? Because a lot of people think that they have to get a coordinator like this movie, with J-Lo, from like the beginning to the end.
Yes. Yeah, there's different stages. Sometimes we're hired to bring in the vendors if they're not from the area, if they don't know who's good. They don't want to get someone who is not going to show up to rehearsal or not be there on time. So they'll come to us looking for preferred vendors, people that we know provide an excellent service and quality. And then other times, we'll come in just the day of too, and we don't come in and start working on the day of the wedding. It's probably about 2 to 3 months out that we start working with them. If you just would hire someone for the day of, it's definitely affordable, and you spend all that money planning it, you definitely need to spend that extra money making sure that everything happens the way you planned it to.
While the guests enjoy hors d'oeuvres, Jessie and Doug had photos taken in another area of the property.
After the ceremony, we went off in one of the golf carts, and our moms had set up a special little area for us to have little snacks by ourselves, have just a couple minutes together, then take our couple portraits.
So it's just nature around you by yourselves. Tell me about the chandelier.
That's what also brought a lot more bling, to the wedding, more sparkle. We wanted to do a lot with the lighting. We wanted to create a very warm, romantic environment still in the outdoors.
We also had a bunch of candles and lighting outside the tent that was lit during the reception.
Tell me who was the caterer.
We chose Commonwealth Catering out of Harrisburg.
The fact that he could bring a whole full-size kitchen just in a big tractor trailer works out great for an outdoor wedding.
So you had salmon, you say?
We had salmon and prime rib, not chicken. Everyone has chicken, so we needed good food. So yeah.
This is fascinating because a venue normally has the bathroom, the dance floor, the chairs. They have everything, the kitchen and everything. And here was empty field. There's nothing, only trees and grass.
I would say an outdoor wedding is, there's more work. And it's more expensive, I would say, as well. Yeah.
Well, the tent and then all the chairs and the tables, the chairs, bathroom facilities, and yeah.
Being so family-oriented, it is not surprising that Jessie and Doug made special accommodations for the children.
There was a special kids tent, and we also hired kind of someone to oversee all the children. They had their own little tent and they had their own kids' meals.
You had a little kid party for them. Right. Tell me about the cake. I love cake, you know that, Jessie.
Really creative. I never would have thought to do like pale yellow icing, and that was Rosie from Rosie's Creative Cakes.
We had fun visiting Rosie in her kitchen and baking a wedding cake together.
Hey Rosie, how are you? Thank you. Oh, likewise.
We have to wear this since we're going to be baking. Me?
And
You.
can we switch? I want you to grease these pans. I'm gonna get some eggs and we're gonna start mixing up a cake.
Perfect.
Okay?
Okay, so tell me about your flavors. What are we doing today?
We are going to make an orange cake today. So I've got my eggs in here, my flour, my sugar, and I'm gonna start mixing this and I'm gonna add my liquid to it.
So how many different flavors of cakes do you have here?
Well, I typically don't like to get the brides too confused with too many flavors, so I have about 10 to 12 different cake flavors that I offer. Take a lick. You know, you just eat raw eggs. But it's good, isn't it?
Very good. What are you doing with this cake?
This cake I am actually going to use for a sample cake. We're gonna put a pineapple orange cream filling between the cake layers, which is basically like whipped cream with some mandarin oranges and some crushed pineapple in there. So it's gonna have a really nice fruity flavor overall.
So this is perfect for either spring or summer.
Exactly.
Having an outside wedding, the cake could melt.
It could. If sugar gets wet, it's gonna melt, and even though it's not raining, there's a lot of humidity in the air. If the elements are working against us, we aren't gonna hold out. You know, you need to deal with what you've been given and make the best of it. So for the most part, I have not had any major problems with the heat. And the buttercream that I work with is I will adjust as the summer moves on and gets hotter.
Rosie, this is the best part, fondant. This is the biggest trend right now. Let's show people what you do, because fondant is more like Play-Doh.
Exactly.
You know, it's edible.
It's edible, and it's a sugar dough that we work with and use as an accent on either fondant or buttercream cakes. Even though Jessie's wedding was outside in what we think of a more casual atmosphere, there was definitely an element of formality and almost ballroom type feel to the outside event being in a tent. So that's what really made it a challenge, was trying to pull that glitz into a very casual, formal setting. Just something very bright, vibrant, that said summer and fun.
That was really pretty. You went with a square cake, so yellow buttercream, and then the sugar
The white
crystal.
sugar crystal bands.
I know she wanted more bling, and I heard that she used some brooches in there.
Yes, she supplied some for us, and I had some, and we used, I think, at least 2 or 3 different. They weren't all the same, which added to that nostalgic feel as well.
Absolutely. It was underneath a chandelier. It was yellow. It was popping with all this color, with the flowers. It was breathtaking.
It was very nice, and the shots that they got of it were just, you know, the angles. The photographer did a great job.
Matthew Tennyson did the photography for Jessie and Doug's wedding. His photojournalistic style was perfect for this event.
This location was Doug's home that he grew up in. This was a very emotional and sentimental choice for the groom to make. So it was an honor to be able to be a part of that.
What were some of your favorite shots from this wedding?
I love the portrait of them standing on the bridge Jessie is just kind of nuzzled up behind him. They're both just looking at their reception as they're about to be introduced. And that was one of my favorite photographs.
There was a lot of color in this wedding.
The colors with Jessie and Doug's wedding were just nothing but eye candy. Beautiful, bright. The flowers were just amazing and they were everywhere.
Obviously, family is really important to you, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We could not have done it without them, definitely.
Yeah. Everyone from both of our sides really put in a lot of effort. Even some of our family's friends helped too.
Aunts and uncles and
Cousins.
and all kinds of people.
So you can say you had your dream wedding?
I had my dream wedding, yes.
What about you?
Absolutely.
Tell me you need it. Tell me you mean it. Tell me you want my heart. Make me believe it. Just open your blue eyes. Let me look inside, so I can see everything that you think you can still hide. Take all of my heart and hold it. The only way to love is to show me. Hold me so that I can know just where we both started from. Boy, you know we're far from perfect. Every little fight is worthy. We can take the bad and turn it where we both started from. Take all of my heart. We'll take all of my heart. Tell me you need it. Tell me you mean it. Tell me you want my heart. Make me believe it.
Not all families could handle this type of wedding pressure and planning, but for Jessie and Doug, the wedding was perfect. To learn more about the wedding professionals featured in this show, log on to dreamweddingspa.com. See you next time on Dream Weddings.